Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Rodige, titled Army Together, the Napoleon Epic Cinematic Trance. And if we switch over to here, we've got ourselves the track on SoundCloud. We'll put the art up here. We're going to listen through this track from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. Instantly surrounds you, doesn't it? Loving the various instrumental layers. Great side chaining there with the picks. Wonderful reverb tails on those misty piano parts. Excellent. Great sort of experimenting with the listener's expectations.
What is your name?
Napoleon.
What is this costume you have on?
This is my uniform.
That's like Joaquin Phoenix, isn't it? The upcoming Napoleon movie. Great to have that sample in there. See, it's nice to add additional layers as we go on, like not coming in with the snares straight away, bringing them in the second quadrant, then having more of a focus on the cymbals in the next part like this. And the chants in the background is a nice little bit of an atmosphere to it. I mean, it's just tremendous, especially with the amount of dynamic range we have here as well. The differences between loud and quiet parts. And with these synths and strings, the fluctuations and oscillations, dude, they're awesome. And the grandiose harmonies. The light snare is getting more and more and more kind of percussive.
Your Majesty, we are discovered.
Good.
I mean, this is commercial grade. It's nice just to have the kicks without much else, to appreciate the tone of those. Excellent. I'm really satisfied with this one. I got a lot of positive stuff to say about it that we're going to talk about in the conclusion. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Rodige. I'm not sure how to pronounce that G for the Rodige. I know it's not a hard G, but let me know in the comments. But hopefully I'm somewhat close. This track titled Army Together, Napoleon Epic Cinematic Trance. I think it's wonderful. The track, I believe, is a tribute, well, it says here, a tribute to Napoleon and the movie starring Joaquin Phoenix. I think it's a fitting tribute. It kind of, the grandiose nature of the overall, the instrumentation and composition, it makes you almost feel like it's sort of a representation of the scale of the warfare of the tale that's going to be told. It's fascinating, and it makes me more interested in the movie. And to be honest with you, I wasn't actually sure that I didn't know about this movie before I listened to this track, so I'm thankful to multiple reasons for the chance that we're getting to listen to this today. But more importantly, related to the track, I think that we didn't have main vocal parts in this, because if there were sort of spoken bits, it was to do with the parts, I suppose, from the trailer, where they talk about the name of the person, everything like that, and the fact that they're being discovered and good. You know, you get the impression that it's playing off the personality, the charisma, the identity of Napoleon themselves and the story that they're going to foretell. And I think that little bit of inclusion of that extra sort of spoken context is really important. I like as well the massive effects change we had on those spoken bits, how they kind of floated out to the sides of the stereo field because of how things were processed. I thought that was incredible, the space that those lines took up, and with nothing else. It's great that we had the capacity to just allow those bits of dialogue to be alone. We didn't feel the need to overcompensate by having anything else there. And in fact, what I will say is it's a tremendous example of the benefits of dynamic range. To allow there to be massive highs and those lows which go down just to pay a little bit more attention. It makes those juxtapositions and contrasts all the more powerful. I think that this track was well composed and well written, well produced. And I say that after listening to this journey for 4.5 minutes, it thoroughly deserved the length it was. We had several drops, several builds. We had a main theme that was kind of orchestrated and relied on, but it managed to carry us through with the different ways that it was represented. I think the combination of sort of individual spoken bits, the heavier parts there, that sort of interlude section around like the 2 to 3 minute mark where it was mostly just the synth pads and the leads harmonizing and kind of going up and down like mountains or sand dunes. It was wonderful how he made the most of that real estate in this longer form part. And there was no filler. If I talk about a few of my favorite instruments within this track, I think that the drums were sensational in the sense that they are one of the most important components within a track like this, but we never overstepped the boundaries. Often we'd have it filtered so that it was more of it seemed like it could have been a synthesizer within itself, you know? But you added more of that low end, got to sort of thump a little bit, and then the kicks, they sidechained really elegantly and powerfully to work well with the inclusion of the snare parts we had a little bit later on into that main drop section around the 1-3 mark. And then we had the cymbals kind of cascade over top and add a bit more sort of heft and size and dimensionality to it. And it was just very satisfying through the percussion alone. But then it's also the synth work we have with the various sequences, the longer leads, the pads which kind of surrounded the stereo field and had a wonderful flurry and aurora of different colors and pigmentations there. It had this kind of harmonic, melodic, minor focus to a lot of it, which made it seem a little more sort of exotic, like it was sort of dangerous, and it was fascinating because of that. I don't think it would have had quite the same level of intrigue as if it relied on the traditional major or minor scales. And I think that we had like a bass line in a depth with that, the bass line covering, like there were various tails, I think, to the endings of these sections here. We kind of worked with maybe a Phrygian mode as well, the flat second going down near that root note. The tails had variations, so I'm thankful for the fact that we didn't just have the same thing repeated over and over. But when I mean the theme was relied upon and sort of like concentrated, it was more like we had the same kind of idea for a thing that connected the various elements and parts of the track. We just, again, sometimes we'd have all synths. Other times we'd have the bass and the drums and the synth pads. Other times we'd simply have the drums with more of, so like in the latter half of the track after that secondary drop. It was like the drums with some occasional sort of like sparkles over top of it. We have an innate understanding of what we can and can't get away with in relation to the amount of times we can do something. And we know how to seamlessly transition between elements in a way that's very satisfying to listen to. You do get lost into it. It's not just that there's those reverbs and sort of misty tails on things, the way things glitter and kind of pulse and kind of evaporate, but it's also how you get lost in the overall energy of it, how the music kind of sucks you in, and it is mesmerizing to listen to. And then you have those sobering moments where everything goes away. Again, with the dynamic, the change in contrast with the way things are put forward and the changes in loudness and all that, it all comes together really well. I think in regards to what is practically a through composed track, it's incredibly well done, and the theme overall, as I mentioned before, is very grandiose and majestic. We had an overall sense of danger to it. There was some minor tonalities to it, but it never seemed depressing. It was almost like it was inviting us to dance along to the chaos there, and like we were preparing for battle in a foreign land or something like that. I think that probably matches well with the story that we were trying to tell in regards to it was epically cinematic for sure. I think some of the orchestral elements we had within the arrangement as some of the sub layers as well were incredibly they sounded great as well. We picked really good samples for them. And I'm not saying all this nice stuff because I feel like I have to. It's legitimately impressive. This, again, as I mentioned, is commercial grade. And that's when we come into the studio recording, the mixing and mastering, where it's sensational. I adore the attention to detail with not only the samples of the vocal, the spoken bits, but also the way that the drums, the basses, the synth pads, and all the other elements were mixed together, notched in the frequency spectrum, as well as in the stereo field. Like, there was all these little wonderful bits to sort of like enjoy and kind of nod along to, but nothing was in a place where it was necessarily unexpected. It was satisfying to have familiar bits in familiar places, but it also was a unique experience within its own because it was so well niched to what we were trying to write the song about. In that sense, it's not just a fitting tribute, but also encourages us to have faith in the producer that they know how to create a unique experience each time. There were absolutely no issues with the filtering, with the EQing of stuff, the reverb, delay tails, any other elements we had, the automation of the filtering and like the snare drums and the other elements with that. Maybe some automation with the volumes as well. You know, there was a huge amount of dynamic range as well. Things were not the same loudness all the time, so it makes it more fascinating to people because there is that change in that aspect as well as to the way things were written or played together or stacked. And finally, it was nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting was handled. And this is effectively an incredibly positive review of this track from Rodige titled Army Together, the Napoleon Epic Cinematic Trance, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show us some love via the various social medias and the SoundCloud page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either help more than ever thought of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.